Hi, welcome to my channel Mostly Knitting. If you're new here, I'm Tash and this is a weekly podcast where I talk mostly about the knitting that I've been doing during the week and if I've done any other crafting. And if you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. So I'm going to get straight into my finished object. I do have one and it's what I'm wearing, and this is the Ranunculus by Midori Hirose. I knit this with a single strand of an Aran weight yarn, Berroco Remix, which is like a recycled cotton blend, and it's in the colorway Eggplant. And I used just over 2 skeins, so it weighs 205 grams. I did a tubular cast on with a 3.75mm needle, and I actually did the narrow neckline, not that it particularly looks like it. It's got a, I think wide would obviously be way wider, but it's, it's very comfortable. It's not too tight. So I used 3.75mm needle for the cast on, and then switched to a 5mm needle for the ribbing, which is a half twisted rib, and then 6mm for the body. There's a lot of sort of tweedy flecks in this yarn. There's sort of some pink and things in it, so you do lose a bit of the design aspect, particularly the elongated stitches that are sort of down here, but I still really like it. I've made it pretty cropped, so it's short sleeve, and it really just sits right at the top of these jeans. That's my belly button right there, and I'm wearing a tank underneath it because I just feel a bit more comfortable. I'll just show you from the back. So like if I move around, you would definitely see with these jeans, they're not like, I would call a mid-rise jean or reasonably high-ish waisted. But yeah, you definitely see lots if I didn't have a tank underneath it. So yeah, like it's still winter here in Sydney. I forgot to mention I'm recording in Sydney, Australia. It's a little bit windy at the moment, but I feel perfectly comfortable with this inside. I'd probably be cold if I was wandering around outside, but yeah, I feel really nice. I'm just wearing it with some black jeans and a white camisole underneath it, but I could probably wear it with a black one if I didn't, but then you wouldn't see these holes, I guess. So yeah, anyway, it's really comfortable, really light. It's very soft yarn, and it was nice to work with. So yeah, so that's my Ranunculus by Midori Hirose. And I just did a regular bind off actually. And I think I did something like 14 centimeters here and then 2 inches of ribbing, and that was it. Right, so that's my only finished object for the week. And now I'll get on to my whips. So I do have a new work in progress. I made enough progress on one of my whips that I was like, okay, I'll reward myself with the pie camisole. So I've done, let me see, I've done the front. So you cast on, that's the pie camisole by Nabita Jouret using Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino. And this looks tiny, but there's a lot more that has to happen. So this is the front here, and then there'll be some, like, I'll put the picture of what the finished object looks like up there, but there'll be some ribbing along the side and along the top. So it looks tiny. It is actually quite tiny, so my gauge is a little bit smaller. So the yarn that I used was 250 meters for 50 grams, and the yarn in the pattern 50 grams was 210 meters. So I've got, substantially more yardage. And so I figured my gauge might be a little bit tighter. I used the needles that the pattern recommended, 2.5mm. So I'm getting 35 stitches. So that's a very small gauge, 35 stitches over 4 inches, and the pattern gauge is 31. So that's substantial. That's more than 10% difference. So I'm kind of doing a blend between the XXS and the XS. So I probably, for my gauge, I probably should have had an extra 4 stitches cast on, which may not sound like that much, but people, when they've talked about this pattern, have said it actually comes out kind of oversized, which perhaps maybe people saw how small this was and then compensated. So anyway, I think sort of forgetting perhaps that there's going to be another 4 inches along the side here. So we'll see. So yeah, I'm doing sort of a mishmash between those two patterns. I kind of wish that was a little bit wider, but look, this is kind of like the size. I was determining whether to do a gauge swatch or not, and then I figured actually the cast on was about roughly what I would have cast on for a gauge swatch. So I thought, well, I'll just work down, and I could tell that I was getting about 35, and I thought, oh, it's going to be a little bit small, maybe it'll block out a little bit. But anyway, we'll see. I reckon it will be fine, because I think, the pattern looks like a negative ease kind of pattern, like it's meant to look that way. So, and there's a bit of stretch here, so we'll see how we go. I've had so many things come out too big, and we'll see if this one ends up being too small, but whatever, we'll, you know, we'll wait and see. So one thing that I will mention, so this is the front part, and then you cut the yarn, and then you cast on a few more stitches for the back, but you pretty much knit the same kind of style, I guess. You just don't increase quite as rapidly. It's sort of, you start wider and go out a bit slower, but you have to get to the same number of stitches. Now the interesting thing with the pattern is for both the XS and the XS, when I look at the front number of rows and the back number of rows, they're not equal for either of them. Like the front on the XXS and the back on the XXS, there's 4 rows less in the back. And with the XS, so the extra small, there's 2 rows less in the back. And yet when you look at in the rest of the pattern, she says they should be the same length. So I was like, how is that? If there's less rows, they're not going to be exactly the same length. So I've sent a message to the designer just asking about that. Is that errata? I ended up just adding a few extra rows on the back because obviously with my gauge difference, and I noticed like it does come up quite high underneath the arms, which is good, I don't mind that, but I thought a few extra rows is probably not a big deal. My row gauge is pretty much right on. Sorry, hair in my mouth. My row gauge is pretty much spot on, maybe a tiny bit. I think the row gauge is meant to be 44 rows and I'm getting 45, so mine's just a teeny bit smaller. Anyway, we'll see. I've started the back and yeah, I'm excited about it. And obviously being a maths teacher, I quite like the idea of knitting a pie camisole. I think that's it for that project. The next thing that I will mention is the Anna T. Now this is by Sarah. I don't know if it's Sarah or Sara. I think if there's no H on the end, I think Sara. So I'll say Sara Stark, and I'm using some yarn that I bought in Bendigo at the Sheep and Wool show, and it's Drover and Classer in the colorway Vintage Rose, and this is the 5-ply yarn. Now I mentioned last episode that this was puckering and I was a little bit concerned, and I definitely wanted to block that out, and I did do that, and it seems fine actually. That seems to have worked, which is great. Thumbs up for that. The neckline has you do this bind off. Actually all of the bind offs are meant to be this stretchy bind off, which is kind of like a, you know, knit or purl through the back loop, put it back on the other needle, and it's got like a lot of elasticity. Now I did that on the first sleeve because I've done the sleeves. I did that on the first sleeve. Which one's that one? That's this one. And I just felt it was flaring actually, and I thought, you know what, I reckon a regular bind off will be fine. And so I did a regular bind off on the other sleeve, and then I blocked this one, and I think it's actually fine. So I'm going to undo that that bind off and redo it just with a regular bind off. And the nice thing about that, obviously, a stretchy bind off has a lot more yarn, so I'll have plenty of yarn and I won't have to worry about attaching more yarn. So yeah, I just followed the pattern in terms of the number of rows and length and everything for the short sleeves, and I'm at the point where I'm ready to, I mean, I'll go and fix that sleeve later, I can't be bothered, but I'm thinking I might even go back and do a regular bind off for the neckline, because I don't know that, I think that might actually pull it in a little bit, which might help with something else that I'll talk about. So I'm just going to try it on so you can see how it's looking. So the good thing is that it's not puckering. So that's, you know, if that puckering stayed, you can see I got that on really easily, like no dramas at all. If that puckering, I mean, it looks like it is a little bit, but there, if that puckering where it was really gathering had stayed, I would have been really unhappy, but it's totally fine now I'm wearing it. The thing that I'm finding, so I chose this pattern because it's a saddle shoulder, and I thought that will actually kind of maybe be flattering on me because I don't have very broad shoulders, and I thought it might make my shoulders look a little broader. But as I think about it, I think it actually just means it doesn't fit very as well because I don't have broad shoulders. Because what I'm noticing, I think I probably have a few too many stitches on the sleeves too. Like, it's not horrible, but there's a little bit of extra fabric here and sort of here that I don't need. and a little bit here. So it's not puckering, but I've just got more fabric than I need. So it feels like, I'm just gonna show you, like, just tie my hair back so you can kind of see, because I'm pointing so much to areas that my hair will start covering. Right, so can you see I've got this fabric here? And because my shoulders slope a lot, right? But if they didn't slope so much, like maybe they were like a bit broader like that, that it would maybe fit a little bit better. So instead of saying, oh, it'll make my shoulders look broader, it just doesn't fit as well because my shoulders aren't that broad. So I'm fiddling with this a bit, but I hope you can see what I mean. Like if my shoulders, you know, I don't mean like hulking, but like if my shoulders didn't go down so much, you know, because when I wear a handbag, like it just falls straight off me. It's very annoying, especially if I'm wearing something kind of slippery. Yes, so you can see I keep playing with this. I don't think it's horrible. I don't think like, you know, when I'm wearing it, because I will finish it, when I'm wearing it, I'll be like, you know, because usually when you're wearing something, you're not staring at a camera, but as I'm looking at the camera at the moment, yeah, there's just too much fabric here. So I don't know what I think. I think I'll finish it, I think I like it, but there's a few little fit issues that I think could be better. Perhaps if I had broader shoulders. Because of the construction, it's kind of a weird one to fix. It's a difficult one to fix. It's not one that's just like, oh, I'll just cut a few raglan increases out or whatever. So I'm not, yeah, anyway, I keep playing with it. But I think you can see probably this is the one with the normal bind off, and this is the one with the, and this one hasn't been blocked. This is the one with it. So stretchy, it's like crazy. So, I mean, which is good if that's what you're after, but it's too stretchy, so I'm going to redo that. Anywho, lots of talk about that, but I hope you can see that it was all puckering here, and I didn't like that. So that's fixed, but now it's just a bit of excess fabric here. I'm wondering, and I don't know if this is the case or not, but I'm wondering if I undo this bind off and I do a normal bind off and it pulls it up a little bit, that might fix a little bit of, like, just, you know, put a little bit less fabric. I don't know. I could just be making that up. Might be worth a try, because I think this bind off is way stretchier than it needs to be. Yeah, anyway, I will finish it. There's obviously, like right now, it's just straight down the body. There's no waist shaping or anything. And just stocking it in the round, I'll just, you know, knit on that when we're watching TV or something. And then obviously just the ribbing at the bottom. And the ribbing, I should say, I haven't mentioned the needles. I'm using, what am I using? 3.75mm needles for the body. I picked up the stitches with a 2mm needle, and then after that, the ribbing here and everywhere is on a 3mm needle. And it's a full twisted rib, so you twist the knits and you twist the pearls. So that's quite hard on my hands. Actually, it was such a pain. When I switched from, I did all of this ribbing, and then I started doing the ribbing on the Ranunculus. I kept wanting, which is only a half twisted rib, I kept wanting to twist the pearls, because your hand just gets, muscle memory, your hand just gets into this rhythm. And I had to keep like stopping myself, like, no, I'm not twisting the pearls. But then I'd forget and not twist the knits. And I was like, so I actually had to pay a lot more attention. So there's a thought as well. Like if you're mixing between two stitch patterns that are different but similar, it can be just hard for your brain. So maybe do a bit of stockinette in between, just to sort of make a disconnection. That's actually interesting, because this happens all the time when, I'll just do a little interjection. I thought about, my car is an Australian, well, I don't know if it's Australian made, but it's a standard one with, like, in Australia, our driver's seat is on the right-hand side and your indicators are on the right. With most cars, but if you buy a European car, your indicators are on the left. They're like you're sitting in the same spot, obviously, but your indicators are on the left. So whenever I get into my husband's car, which is a European-made car, I have to be very conscious, I think, indicator, and I indicate with, you know, my other hand. And of course, when he drives my car, he's always turning the wipers on. And but the thing that's interesting about that for me is that when I can't remember if I've already mentioned this, if I get into anybody else's car, I just automatically think indicators on the other side. Because usually if I'm driving another car, it's my husband's. So my brain has gone into autopilot. This is not my car, indicators on the other side. So then even if I'm in, like, you know, someone else's car where the indicators are on the right side, I'll turn the wipers on. Anyway, that was a real aside. You can just zoom through all of that if that was not interesting to you, but I just find it so interesting what our brain does automatically. And obviously with knitting, there's so much that's sort of autopilot and you know, muscle memory in our hands. Yeah, anyway, that's the Anna T by Sara Stark, and yeah, I'll definitely wear it. It's a really pretty color. It's just sort of some subtle variations in this pink. It's like a semi-solid. And, you know, yeah, there's little bits of extra fabric that you sort of, I guess when you make your own clothes, you have that feeling of like that just shouldn't be there. You know, you accept it a bit more from a store-bought garment, but from something you've made yourself, you think, well, I should be able to not have that. Yes, anyway, so that's whip number 2, the Anna T, and I don't think this will take long to finish. And yep. The next whip is the, I'll spit it out in a second, what is it? It is the Cumulus tee. So I'll try this one on. I finished both sleeves. So because that was my little promise to myself, when I finish both the sleeves, then I can cast on the pie camisole. So I finished both sleeves. It's funny the rules we make for ourselves. Yeah, so sleeves done. I just followed exactly the pattern and did an I-cord bind off. I haven't joined that yet. I'll do that at the end. I generally do all the finishing right at the end, unless it's something really important and, you know, like picking up stitches for a neckband because I want to see how it's going to fit. So yep, it's definitely oversized, but you know, manageable. Feels okay. Like, oh, the yarn actually feels really, really lovely. It feels like a sort of a raw silk. But it is pretty, what do you call it? It's pretty loosey-goosey, but still feels stylish. Like I think this will look quite nice with some, because it's sort of oversized, I would probably wear it with maybe some white capri type pants, you know, like I don't really have white jeans, but I do have some nice white pants that I would maybe wear it with. I was thinking of this long white skirt, but I think then that might be too, you know how you need that visual of like, if the top is loose, the bottom should be fitted, or if the top is fitted, the bottom should be loose. I don't know, should. Like it just looks visually a bit better if you don't have everything super tight or everything super loose. You know, not all the time, but just I think in general. Yeah, so the sleeves feel nice. I did not go up sorry, I'll talk about the needles. I used a 3mm needle for the body and a 2.5mm needle for the pickup and the I-cord edging. I did not do, you know how some people talked, I think the pattern says to do less stitches, you know, or like with the I-cord, do a few knit 3-togethers. I chose not to do that because I actually had few reasons. I had 4 less stitches cast on under the arms just to try to control the oversizedness, and you know, in hindsight I could have cast on none, but then my sleeves would have been a bit tight. So I have 4 less stitches on the sleeves, and what else? But I followed all the decreases, so I've got 4 less stitches here anyway. And when I magic loop a bit tighter, and I usually go up a needle size, but I decided not to here, and I haven't blocked them yet, so I think it will loosen out, because this, I've discovered that my gauge loosened from 28 stitches over 4 inches to 24 stitches over 4 inches, so I'm expecting the sleeves, maybe not as much because I magic loop tighter, but they will stretch out just a little bit as well. So, but you know, it's not tight at all, which I really don't like. I don't like sleeves that are tight. Okay, so that is work in progress number 3. I think I'm up to now, 1, 2, 3. Number 4 is my Exploration Station shawl by Stephen West, and that's on a 4mm needle. I'm up to the last, but I haven't finished the last wedge. The yarn that I'm using is Tosh Merino Light in the colorway Graphite, which is this sort of yellowy green, Neon Peach, Antler, and then this was some Swish yarns in an apricot-y kind of colorway that I picked up from Bendigo. And yeah, I'm really happy with that. I think it's just the end of this white is the last wedge, and then it goes on to some brioche. And that will be, like, I'll have to remind myself, I haven't done brioche in ages, so that will be something where I'll have to kind of turn my mind back to, like, look at a few videos and things, because it's just not something I do that often. I've done a few things, like I've knit a hat, I've knit Junction, so the whole yoke of Junction by Andrea Mowry was a brioche brioche. I think that might be all the brioche I've done actually, now I think about it, and that was a while ago. So yeah, maybe even like 3 years, 2.5, 3 years ago. So yes, I'll definitely have to pay attention, at least for the beginning, and like anything, like I was saying, get into a different rhythm of the whole brioche stitch rhythm. So yep, so that's Exploration Station by Stephen West, which I'm enjoying. And let me see, so that's number 4. Number 5 is my Musselburgh hat. I don't think I've worked on this at all actually, because I have I've just had lots of other stockinette to work on, so I haven't sort of needed a little stockinette project, I guess. So that is Musselburgh. This is my 16th Musselburgh. I'm knitting it on a 3.25mm needle, and I increased out to 136 stitches. And that is Hedgehog Fibers Skinny Singles. I actually have more than that left because I have some yarn somewhere that I knit up for the sorrel sweater that I've had to unwind and rewind. So there's a fair bit to go on that one. But yes, I am liking that. I just haven't made any progress on it. And my last work in progress, I actually did make some progress. I did make some progress on this. These are the black mitts that I'm making, like fingerless mitts that I'm making for my daughter Mia. So I finished the thumb gusset and took off the stitches for the thumb. And I'm just working up the rest of the hand now. I think I've got about another 10 rows and then 8 rows of twisted rib and then a bind off. So I'll just pop it on. Yeah, it's a mitt. It'll be nice. So yeah, so I think that's going to fit her fine. I am using Rowan Kidsilk Haze in the colorway Wicked, and I think this is Myak baby lace, baby yak lace. I don't know, it's quite thin. So they're the 2 strands that I'm holding together. And it's not so bad now, but doing this thumb gusset, like I don't like doing the gusset at the best of times, because it gets quite tight on the needles until you take it off. But black yarn, dense gauge, thumb gusset, I was not enjoying this at all. And that's about 20, the thumb gusset's about 20 rows. And yeah, I was just really like, just make myself do it. And I don't like that in my knitting. So I just have to remember that. This is why I could never do commission knit or anything, because it's hard to make myself knit on something that I don't. This is meant to be fun, right? So, but my daughter really wants these, and like she wouldn't want me, you know, being unhappy while I'm making it for her. But I'm like, look, there's 20 rows that I'm really not enjoying. But I can't say I'm particularly enjoying this project. I'll just be happy to have it done, and I can't see myself making anything like this anytime soon. But they'll be fine, and she will wear them, right? So it's not like they're going to sit in a drawer and not get worn. She wears these sorts of things when it's cold in the morning and she gets in the car and she's driving. So I know they'll get worn, and she's very knit worthy, and she's such a beautiful girl. She picks up our son from youth group pretty much every week, like Friday night at 9:30. You know, I mean, not that she has to do that to get these, but it's just, she's got such a generous spirit that, yeah, I want to, like, it's just what happens, right? If someone is just kind and you're more inclined to want to do nice things. Anyway, so, and she's my daughter, of course, so of course I want to do that. Yeah, but I just because I love the person I'm making for doesn't mean I'm loving making it. So anyway, yes, and there's another whole bit to go after that one. Anyway, that's okay. There's no deadline, although of course it is getting a little bit warmer, so I would like to get them finished for her. Right, so that's it for my current works in progress. I'm up to my next segment, which I have been calling my foe from the vault, but I can't remember who it was. Someone mentioned, they said it sounds like foe, like your opponent, F-O-E, and yeah, they're not my foes, and they suggested that maybe the segment could be called Friend from the Vault. And I think, well, that's actually really nice, because we can all, you know, it's nice to have friends, and they are my friends. All these, well, they're not my friends, but they're inanimate objects, but then they're things that I'm happy about, usually. So my friends from the vault, these ones, I actually have 4. I won't show all of them because they're really big, but these are the Neat Ripple Blanket by Lucy of Attic 24. So I made 4 of these. one for each of my children, and this is Mia's over here, and they are to fit, for the kids, they're to fit a single bed. Now, none of the kids have single beds anymore. They've all got queens, lucky them, but but these are things that I made for them when they were younger. So this is Mia's. All of the blankets that I've made, oh, and the one that I made for myself and my husband is a king size, so that one is massive. So I'll show you this one. I used Cascade 220 Superwash. I know that you can order kits for these from the US with, I think it's Stylecraft yarn. I'm not sure. If that's wrong, I'll put something different below. But I was reminded of these because Julie from the Knitty Cats, she's the Knitting Cats. She has a lovely new podcast. She's in Colorado, and she's really fun. Anyway, she's really into these blankets, and she orders the kits from Attic 24, and they look amazing, and it's kind of nice, the whole, someone's chosen the colors for you. But I think the reason I didn't do that at the time, because these are pretty old, the reason I didn't do that at the time was because I was a bit worried about, like, what if I didn't even like the yarn, and I'd never tried the yarn before, and I was reluctant to buy a whole blanket size worth of yarn that I had never even felt. So I went for a yarn that I knew, which was Cascade. That came in heaps of colors, Cascade 220 Superwash. And I knew I wanted Superwash because this is going to be for the kids. And in fact, this one has just been washed because Mia took it camping and spilt hot chocolate on it. So, and yeah, it just went, I put this for wash, so I put it in the washing machine on a wool cycle. I didn't dry it in the dryer, I hung it out to dry. I mean, she would have done it, but I think I was a bit like, no, I'll do it. Because it hasn't, this was actually the maybe second time. I made these years ago, and they haven't been for, I haven't washed them. So I'll put a link in, as I usually do, anything that I talk about, I put links in the description section, and I'll put links to all of my projects, and I've written down in my project page on Ravelry all of the different colors. And so I did like a repeat, and then a repeat, and then a repeat. And I also put in like what hook I used and how many I cast on. Now, I've said before, I'm not really much of a crocheter, but the pattern, the Neat Ripple, whatever blanket pattern, has all these pictures and how to do these increases and decreases, and they're not very hard. And obviously once you start doing the pattern, like, it becomes intuitive. The only thing for me with crochet is that I have to look. So with knitting, with almost all my knitting, I don't have to look. Like if I'm doing a bind off, or, I don't really have to look, and I don't have to think too much, or unless it's like a complicated lace pattern. But with crochet, I don't have to think too much, but I have to look. And so I certainly couldn't do this if someone, like if I was in a car and someone was driving. But in front of the TV, where I was watching something that didn't require like close attention to people's faces or whatever, and I'm sort of, half watching, like the kids and I used to watch, my husband, like all of us as a family used to watch MasterChef. And so that's perfect, right? Because they're just cooking, and things are not that important. That reminds me of we used to watch the shows with MasterChef, and sometimes people would like be really unhappy with something they made and they'd cry. And one of our daughters, Alex, the middle one, she would get so she just felt so distressed that they were crying, and she would start crying. We'd have to, because she'd be quite young, we'd have to console her. It's like, it's okay, they just made a bad dish. So that became a bit of a thing in our family. Like when someone was upset, I'd be like, it's okay, you just made a bad dish. Anyway, sidetrack. So yes, these blankets are really, really lovely. And I think one of the things for me was like, I wanted something, not clothing that I would make for my kids, but something that they would always have, that was theirs, and they would take with them when they moved out, and that would, remind them of their mum, and, a hug from their mum, and how much I love them. So that's Mia's one. And yeah, it's really big, like it's really big, and she can wear it, she can like have it on top of her watching TV, or, because obviously it doesn't fit over her queen size bed, like all the way across. But yeah, anyway, I'll grab Alex's because it's here, but now that I've grabbed it, because Alex is our dog Gus likes to sleep on her bed. So this is hers. She got a rainbow one, but with some whites in it. And oh, it smells like dog. Now that I've grabbed it, I'm gonna put that in the wash. It's actually a nice day today and it's kind of windy. So you know what? I'm gonna pause and put it in right now. Okay, washing on. It'll take about 40 minutes and I'll get it out while it's still daylight and windy. And I just quickly grabbed Zach's one. This is the first one I made, and yeah, I think this one was a tiny bit smaller, so with the girls' ones I just made it a little bit wider. And yeah, he likes it. He actually finds it a little bit itchy, so he must be super sensitive because he doesn't, I mean, the Cascade 220 Superwash, it's not itchy, but I guess like, how can you tell someone what they feel, right? Like if he feels it's itchy, he feels it's itchy. So it has to kind of be like on top of another blanket and then like a sheet or something over it, so he doesn't actually feel that on himself. So, but yeah, anyway. So they're the ones, and I'll just put a picture of my king size one up here because that's just too big to pull off the bed. Yeah, and they keep us really warm, and I like the weight of them. Like I really like, because obviously crochet uses more yarn, which means it's denser and heavier. I quite like that. I like, you know, because we use doonas, these sort of fluffy eiderdowns, but then to have a blanket on top, I like that weight on top of me. And there is some kind of theory about that. They actually sell weighted blankets now. I'm sure you all know. You know, most people have heard of that, but it makes you feel secure. Right, so that's my friend from the vault, my friends from the vault. Now, just to purchases, the only purchase that I made was the pie camisole pattern, and obviously I've cast that on already, and I've sent a message to the designer asking, did I already say that? Asking about was there any errata about the differences in the length? But I only just sent that this morning and I haven't heard yet, so. And this is only her 4th pattern, so she's kind of new to designing, so I don't know if she's made a mistake or if it has been fully tech edited. I mean, I just don't know. So I'm curious to hear what she says. It was either a mistake or it was intentional, but the two things can't both be right. One can't be 4 rows less than the other and the same length. And I've read it really carefully, you know, because it could be user error. I could have like read it wrong, but yeah, I don't think so. So anyway, waiting to hear. I'll report back. So my upcoming plans. Well, I've obviously already started on the pie camisole. I still want to make the camisole number 4 with the raspberry, I'm pretty sure with the raspberry pink knitting for olive pure silk, but I won't make that I won't even start that until I finish the Cumulus Teague, because it's the same yarn, so it just sort of seems a bit like, just finish the one you're on with that yarn before you then start another one. And I have to be a bit careful with my gauge there. It's not a stockinette fabric, but I might even go down a needle size just because obviously my gauge really stretched out with the Cumulus T. So yeah, I might try that on a smaller needle. Another plan is pink velvet. You see I've put the yarn up here. So this is the Bichet Bush Le Petite Lamb's Wool in the colorway medium grey, Petite Lamb's Wool, and I have 3 skeins of that, so that should be enough for pink velvet. And I swatched for gauge, and then I also swatched for color with the pink and I didn't enjoy cutting that. Like I always felt a bit nervous. I'm like, but then I thought, you know what, if I really need to, like if that's not enough, I can always unravel my swatch. But I'm pretty sure I've got enough of the grey. But I think I like the bright, the darker pink over the lighter pink. I actually think that light pink would look really pretty with this yarn. Maybe not, I don't know. I'm not really sure about like a lighter yoke, like a lighter color for the color, but I guess that could be nice. Anyway, something to think about. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to use the pink for the pink velvet. They're both pink, but the darker pink. Yeah, so sorry, and this is the Ching fiber, like it's Suri alpaca. Oh, I can tell you what it is. Ching fiber. Sorry, that's really noisy, isn't it? Melted baby Suri. So it's 65% baby Suri, 20% merino, and 15% silk. Yep, so, and one of these is meant to be enough for pink felt. Now I can't get it back in there. Yep, managed it just. Okay, so that's, and I'm getting, again, not quite getting gauge, 26 stitches in instead of 24. So I'll have a look at, maybe I'll knit the next size up. Of course that means more yarn, so I'll have to have a look and see if I've got enough yarn, but I think I do, because it's a pretty cropped sweater. So yeah, and it's really interesting, you know, with that brown yarn that I showed you last week, and I was not happy with the lack of stitch definition. I mean, there's not very good stitch definition there either. So, you know, I'm not gonna rush anything with that brown yarn. I might get inspired, or I might find a pattern that would suit it better. So it's not gonna be destined for felted bowls just yet, but at least I know that it could work for that if I couldn't find a pattern for it. But you know, I have plenty of stash, so I'm not in a rush. Yeah, but that's definitely going to be an upcoming plan that I'll make soon. Actually, I'm just going to show you this now while I think about it. My son was tidying up his little cube with all this stuff, and he found this little pin cushion that he made during lockdown. So when he was in maybe year 8 textiles or something. Isn't it cute? So, and he did all of that, like all the little hand, the blanket stitch around the outside. And so that was for me. So let's see if I don't think I have any pins for it, but it's a little pin cushion for me. So, and I just think it's so cute. So I like to have things around me that, even if I'm not using them, that just sort of make me happy. So, and I think of, oh, Zach made that. Right, where is I up to? So pink velvet. I'm still think I'm going to make another mini mock neck tank with this pink willow yarn, maybe. Yes, I think so. This is the mini mock neck tank, and actually, you know, I ended up making it a bit longer than I thought. But yeah, I think a pink one of these would look nice. That's a sport weight yarn, and this is a fingering weight yarn, so I'll definitely be knitting the smallest size because it might turn out a little bit bigger. And this one was fine. But when I do the edge stitches, I'll make sure I knit them quite tightly. I also want to make the Kutar top by Sara Nordland, and I'm thinking about a lightweight cotton. I did show last week these two yarns, Rowan 4-ply cotton and Peyton's Gem. I haven't swatched for those yet, but I just, I think I might actually buy some of the Sanders Garn Tinlina, because I do really want to try it, and my in-laws are coming from the US in a month. So I usually, not always, but I usually sort of think, oh, maybe that's a good time to buy some yarn that's more available in the US, or easier to get in the US. And I know it's not American yarn, but like it's easier to get there. And they always bring like a huge case of all Mexican food for us, because that's not as easy to get here in Australia as well. Like just, you know, different salsas and, you know, enchilada sauce and all this kind of stuff. So yes, that plus yarn. I have to make sure that all of those sauces are packed separately to all the yarn. You wouldn't want that spilling all over the yarn. Yes, I think I might get some Tinlina for the Kutar top, because that is designed for a lighter kind of gauge sweater. I still want to make the field sweater by Camilla Vad, and I swatched with yarn, but I wasn't that, well, I didn't get gauge, and I didn't think I'd enjoy knitting it with the Isia yarn. So I had a look online at my local yarn store. They got some yarn in that kind of salmony colour for the BC Garn Loch Lomond. But then I just had a look. It arrived like last Friday, and there's only one skein of that salmon left. But I did find another store online that sells it in Australia, and they have about 8 skeins in stock, so I could order from there. But I'm teaching at the yarn store on Saturday, and if that one skein is still there, I'll at least be able to see the colour, which would be good. I would like to, because it's salmon, that's something that I feel like I would feel better looking at it in the shop, and also really thinking, do I want a whole sweater in this colour? And then there's a blue colour that I liked as well that I could get, or I could order the salmon one online if I actually like it. I mean, I like to support my local yarn store, but if they don't have it in stock, and who knows when it will come in next, I can ask. But yes, so that's another upcoming plan. And I don't know that I would call it an upcoming plan, but I do really want to make the Alpine Bloom sweater by Caitlin Hunter, but that's more like I think some podcasts talk about it as dream knitting. If I don't even have the yarn, and I reckon the Plucky Knitter Primo Sport in that Aqua colorway, that's going to be too heavy. There's only like 200, in 2 skeins, there's like 500 meters, whereas like for this kind of sport weight yarn, I think I should be getting more like 600 or 650 meters. It should be a bit lighter anyway, to work with the spin cycle, which also my LYS doesn't have any of that in stock either. Oh, I could get some of that from overseas. But that, I do like buying spin cycle in person because it's so different. Each skein is different. And I don't even have the base yarn. So anyway, I guess that's kind of dream knitting, the Alpine Bloom sweater by Caitlin Hunter. I do want to make that. Let me see, was there something else? Oh, I forgot to mention what has caught my eye. So the Roots and Shoots sweater by Teti Lutzak. It's this really gorgeous colorwork sweater, and I think I saw on Instagram the Dragon Knitters version of it, and she did her own gradient with a bunch of different colors. She's so talented. Her projects are gorgeous. In fact, it was her field sweater in the BC Garn Loch Lomond that really caught my eye and made me think, oh, I'll use that yarn for it. Anyway, so that her project, I'll put a picture of her project up there and of the sweater itself. So that was the Roots and Shoots sweater that kind of caught my eye. I'm not anywhere near actually getting stuff for it, but I thought, oh, that's pretty. Yes. So let me see. I had I might even make this a little segment, questions from the comments. I had, I think it was Sara who asked, was there any yarn available in Australia that's similar to the Knitting for Olive yarn? And I was looking particularly for the Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino, which is what I'm using for the Pie Camisole, and also the Pure Silk for the Cumulus tee. And I couldn't find anything that sort of seemed like similar. So there was the Holst Garn, which obviously isn't Australian, but it's more easily available here. The Holst Garn Coast yarn is sort of a similar makeup to Cotton Merino makeup to the Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino, but I didn't like knitting with that yarn at all. It was super, super fragile, and yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. So, whereas I'm really liking that Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino, really liking it. Oh, and I just found that Sunspun is actually carrying some, Sunspun in Melbourne has just started carrying the heavier merino and the lightweight merino, you know, like a standard sort of light fingering and maybe a light worsted weight yarn. And I haven't tried that Knitting for Olive yarn, but I think sometimes when a yarn store starts carrying from a new supplier and they see how that yarn goes, then they might start carrying more from their range. And Sunspun carries almost a lot of the Dirurum, I don't know how you say that, Dirurum, that sounds weird, Natura yarn. And that's that, like the Antigone that I have. This just happens to be here. And in fact, a lady who's French pronounced that Antigone, fluffy fibers. She called it Antigone, and I thought she probably knows better than I do. But Antigone is a play. At least that's what I thought. I thought how you pronounce that, Antigone. I think it's in what's the word? Latin. But anyway, Antigone, I don't know. But this yarn is from Dererum Natura? Dererum Natura. Dererum Natura. Anyway, Sunspun carries a lot of their yarn. I am all over the shop today, sorry. And so maybe after they carry the merino and the lighter merino from Knitting for Olive, they might then start carrying the cotton merino and the pure silk. We'll see. But that was what I was going to ask. If you know anything that's similar to you, the viewers, anyone watching, do you know anything similar to the Knitting for Olive cotton merino or the Knitting for Olive pure silk? would you mind putting a comment in below, because that would be really helpful for the viewer and for me too. I'd like to know as well. So yes, so that was questions from the comments. Now the knit along. So I had a look today and there's a few more projects in there because I sort of made it a bit clearer. I'm like, honestly, there's no rules. It's just share and whatever state it's in, even doesn't even have to be finished, but if you can be showing me what you're making, that's kind of the point. And put in the hashtag on Instagram, mostly knitting YouTube Cal. I'll put it down here. If you can do that, and then at the knit along finishes on the 1st of September, so it doesn't even have to be finished, just what you're making. So this week I had a look, Miss Mandy Lou is working on the shifting chevron shawl. That was not very nice, Stephen. Shifting chevron shawl by Stephen West, in these beautiful colors. And then Susie, who's Spark Susie, she finished a Fair Isle sweater for, I think, her daughter, and in a design that her daughter made up. And then Rebecca Bovey is working on a Fair Isle project. And Inspired by Fibre is working on a Felix cardigan. And Sandra Makes has finished the Sunday sweater by PetiteKnit. So thanks everyone for sharing what you're making or what you finished. And so yeah, if you can get your photos up, something in there by the 1st of September, that would be great. Right, my hidden whips basket. This one's getting long. That will be interesting editing, but I haven't done too much stopping and starting. My hidden whips basket, I'll just show you that I did finish these. I finished fixing the tops of these trench coat turtle pearl girl socks. And look, it took about 5 minutes, right? I don't know why I didn't do it, and I've already worn them since then. So yes, I'm very happy that they're finished. And I'm gonna pull something else. I had a quick look, just because I thought, you know, if I do pull something out of here, I do want to be able to tell you about it. So in here is a skirt, and I've worn it quite a few times, so it's not something that never gets worn, but it's the Carnaby skirt. It's, I'll show you from the right side. It's like a 2x2 moss stitch, I guess you'd call it. And I don't know if you can see, but you can hopefully see there's a button missing. So it's got these sort of panels, like these sort of, I think you call them gauze, where it sort of splits out. And you knit from side to side. So you start at one end and then, I don't know which end, and you knit to the other. And then I've just got these one row buttonholes here. So yeah, so it's like a wrap skirt. And yeah, you can't really see very well because I'm wearing black, but and obviously I don't normally wear it over jeans, but I do wear it over tights. So yeah, you can't see anything there, sorry, it's too far. But you can see that a button has come off, and that's it. That's why it's in the basket and has been in the basket for over 2 years. And I actually wear this, and it's winter now. So I'm very glad I've pulled this out. And then I was like, where's the button? Because I think this is what happens. I find the button, where's the skirt? I find the skirt, where's the button? This is what it's like when I try to get my children and I try to collect them from church. And I'll get one kid and I'm like, wait here. And then I go look for another kid and I find another kid and then the other one's gone. I'm just gonna pause and have a drink. Right, so I think that's what happened with this skirt, is I either had the skirt and no button or had the button and no skirt. And now, anyway, I found the skirt, and then of course I was like, oh, I'll show that skirt. And I was like, where's the button? But I found it. It was actually just in a little bowl by the computer. Isn't that button cute? Just a little shank button. Anyway, so I've got to put it sewed on. I haven't done it, so that will happen this week, and I'll wear it. Maybe I'll even wear it tomorrow. Yeah, I'm gonna do it after I finish recording. Just, you know, like I knew that blanket needed a wash, just put it in the wash, right? Don't procrastinate. So I'm gonna do that as soon as I finished recording. Yes, I'm feeling look, that's a big thing to come out of the basket. Very happy about that. And it's not going back in, I'm gonna wear it. So that was the Carnaby skirt. Maybe next week I'll do it as my friend from the vault, because then I can actually give you more of the details. we're getting there, nearly done. Other craft, none. You'll be relieved to know. I haven't done anything else, no crochet, no sewing, nothing. So thanks for watching. I'm going to do a little personal stuff now. So yeah, feel free to go. I will see you next week. Yeah, and thanks for watching. Oh, if you can do the whole like and subscribe thing too, that would be really nice. Okay, so personal stuff. So it's Thursday now. So last week we had cards on Thursday night. We've got cards again tonight. I really enjoyed it. It's like I can knit while we play, because I just play on an iPad online, so nobody has to shuffle or anything. And we actually play with friends who are, they live up the road, like seriously a 5-minute drive, but it's just easier for everyone playing online, and we're just in our jammies at home on the couch, but we Zoom, so we talk and we chat through Zoom, and so I can have like my cards on my iPad and I just knit while we're playing. So yeah, so that was Thursday night. I went and saw Barbie on Saturday with, felt weird actually, I saw it with my husband and my son, and it sort of felt like a movie that you should be seeing with, not should, but would be kind of more, I don't know, to see with my daughters or girlfriends or whatever. Anyway, they were good sports. They seemed to enjoy it enough. It is quite funny. I think it got hyped a lot, so I was expecting something a bit more, but it was still really good, and it was funny and it was enjoyable. And then on Sunday, I just had church in the morning, and then we did some cleaning around the house because we were having renovations and things were just getting a bit chaotic. So when we do that, like everybody just gets in and helps and cleans for a couple of hours. It's a big house. There's 5 of us who live here and a dog, and you know, and with renovations, it's messy. Sorry, I keep turning my, because I've got a big iMac here, and the brightness goes. Maybe it's better if I don't have it on. I don't know. It's quite a lot of light on me. Yes. So what was I saying? Yes, cleaned in the afternoon, and then my mum came over and we had burgers. I really enjoy that. So my dad used to come over all the time and have either dinner or play board games or whatever with us, and it is really nice to have my mum over and to have like all the family together having dinner. Oh, Mia was out, but generally we try to all have dinner together on Sunday night now with my mum. We go through patches sometimes where it doesn't happen, but I like it, and I think she likes it. It's nice to have traditions that are kind of like, so as a rule of thumb, that's what I would like if she's over on Sunday nights. What else has happened? Zach started work at KFC. He had his first shift on Tuesday night, and he was so happy. It was really lovely. Like, I just think work gives you such satisfaction, you know, such personal satisfaction. So yeah, he really enjoyed. He raced through his modules, and because I was like, oh, you're just going to be in training. You're not even going to be on the floor, because it was only a 3-hour shift. But he zoomed through the training modules because he just wanted to get out on the floor, which is so lovely. Anyway, so he had that on Tuesday night, and he's got another shift on Sunday. And what else happened? Last night, I went out to dinner to a French restaurant with my friend Gloria, the friend that I went up to the Sunshine Coast with. And oh, it was so good. It was really good for my iron levels. We had steak tartare and we had steak frite and very high fat dinner, but it was yummy. And what else do we have? Some crab cakes. Anyway, it was really, really nice. So that was last night. Yeah, and just shows that we're watching. We finished watching The Americans, which was really, really good. And it's always sad when you finish watching a show. And we're just watching the end of Succession now. And we've got 1 episode to go. So we'll be looking for another show. I don't even know what we've got lined up after that. But yeah, Succession's been really good too. Sad though. Like, just hard to watch sometimes. Yeah, so that's, and I've had a lot of marking and stuff to do, but I've almost finished. My students have done their trials and I've nearly finished marking. And then it will be like a big push towards getting them ready for their final exams. So this week coming up, the renovation should hopefully be finished. So that's been going for 3 weeks now. It'll be 3 weeks tomorrow, and I'm hoping that we can get back into our room, because we're in Zach's room at the moment and have kicked him out into the single bed in the office. So it'd be nice, because like when all the tiles are getting put in and they're cutting tiles, there's just dust everywhere. So hopefully, because they haven't quite finished tiling, I think they're going to finish that later this afternoon or tomorrow. And then they're going to measure up for the shower screen, and some stuff's going to get put back in. That would be really nice. Like, I'm not the tidiest person in the world, but at a certain point, I just like can't deal with just stuff everywhere. And obviously when you're out of your bedroom, and we've been out for 3 weeks, and Zach's been so good giving up his bedroom. I mean, he didn't really have a huge choice but in the matter, but like, you know, we're all getting, like, it's just what happens. You all have to flex for each other. Yeah, so but he's been really good about it. Let me see what else is coming up. Oh, and Zach and Paul are in the grand final for this is their first season of playing baseball together, and they've got their grand final on Saturday morning. So I'm going to go and watch hopefully most of that in the morning, and then I'm teaching a Knit My First Beanie class in the afternoon, which is actually, like, I've taught that two or three times now, and I really like teaching it. It's really fun. Like, it's people can knit and they're just expanding their skills, and they're often like learning to knit in the round, or, you know, learning ribbing and decreases, and like, it's almost like, you know, you get the full excitement of, I can make this now and I can make that, and it's just, yeah, it's really nice to be involved in that. So yeah, that's what I've got coming up. I think we're 3 weeks into term now. I've got 6 more weeks and then holidays again, so because it's quite a short term, but I'll be very busy in that period of time because I'm teaching Extension 2 next term, so there'll be a lot of, like, I have to get all my maths skills up. Yeah, so I'm not sure how, like, anyway, we'll see how we go. I think that's probably, I've rambled quite a bit, so I think that's enough for now. Thanks so much for being here or returning, and yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the podcast, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.